Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now. Today we're joined by Greg Tada, filmmaker, storyteller, and one of the minds behind some of the most visually stunning moto-focused content you'll find. Greg has a unique eye for capturing the soul of the ride, from winding roads to wide open deserts. His work brings the culture and emotion of motorcycling to life in a way few others can.
It wasn't about perfection. It was about embracing the imperfection of it and kind of seeing the hand of the artist in it. And so I thought something like that was really, really cool. And it's almost the opposite of what we see in production motorcycles, right? So,
what's up, One Gang? I used to think that if I spent big money on riding gear with a logo on the back, I was getting top quality. I gave Leather Up a shot. I wasn't sure at first, could I really get quality gear without spending a fortune? But after putting tens of thousands of miles on their jackets and vests, I had my answer. No busted zippers, no loose stitching, just solid, well-made gear that lasts. Leather Up carries trusted brands like Milwaukee Leather, Hot Leathers, and more, with gear for every rider and every budget. Plus, their customer service actually cares and picks up the phone, something rare these days. So do yourself a favor, check out leatherup.com. Whether you need jackets, vests, chaps, boots, helmets, or luggage, they've got you covered. And because you're part of the One Gang Worldwide family, use code CW20 at checkout for 20% off your entire order. Stop overpaying, gear up with Leather Up, and see the difference yourself.
One Gang, welcome to the show. We've got Greg Tada, a sick motorcycle designer, genius, and we're excited to have you, Greg. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you.
thanks for having me.
Where do you get intros like that except the One Gang Worldwide?
I know,
podcast,
man. I appreciate it. So much love.
Awesome. Greg, thanks for joining us, man. So much. Been looking forward to this one for sure. Love any kind of designing, anything to do with motorcycles. But like we do most of our podcasts, let's kind of start it from the beginning, man. Take us way back where you grew up.
Going all the way back. So I was born in Utah. I'm a Utah boy.
Okay.
You know, it's like I grew up there almost immediately after I was born. We actually moved to Northern California to the center of Silicon Valley. So I spent my elementary school years in Sunnyvale, California. It's like right where like Hewlett Packard and Atari and Apple are.
Yeah.
And then like middle school and high school, you know, we went back to Salt Lake City, Utah, and kind of spent a lot of time over there. And I went to the University of Utah, and
So you're a Ute.
I am a Ute, running Utes. And
Nice.
you know, I studied software engineering, and I was actually working as a software developer for a couple of years before I got into this. You know, I did a pivot, I switched into this career.
Killer.
It all kind of started in Utah.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Even in your younger days, before college, obviously, were you pretty creative as far as designing? Was that something that you kind of saw as something you may have interest in later on?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was a kid, my mom really sort of fostered my creativity. I was really quiet. You know, I was just a really, really shy kid, just painfully shy. And I think the way that I sort of found my way to express myself was just through, creating stuff, just drawing things, building
Nice.
things at home. You know, I was that kid that had like a lot of scale models and stuff, so just sort of growing up, doing a lot of like radio control cars, that type of thing, it kind of actually made me a lot more mechanical because
That's cool.
truth be told, my parents, they did not want me on a motorcycle growing up. I mean, I don't know which group you guys belong to, but I feel like motorcyclists, they're in two groups. Either their parents hate it and they had to sneak around and do it, or they grew up in a motorcycle family.
That's right.
Yep. I had to keep my first bike at my friend's house.
Exactly.
So there's no way my parents were even allowing that thing in our garage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we had my neighbor had this. I just remember my first experience with a motorcycle was I had this neighbor who had he had this little mini bike, and it was such a pile of shit. Like, it never ran. And I don't even know what brand it was, but like I just remember he let me ride it, and from that first time I was hooked. You know what I mean? It was just that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it was just from that first time, right? And it was different from driving in a car. It was different from riding a bicycle. You know, it was just that first time I was just hooked. But it was just this
Yep.
no name, bike that never ran.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
How old were you then?
I was in fourth grade, so what is that, like 10, 9?
Okay,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
That was so for our listeners out there that are on the podcast platform, you should check out YouTube because Greg's got this gnarly whiteboard drawing behind him. And before we started recording, you'd mentioned you get some opportunities to teach some kids, which is incredible. And then that kind of segues me into asking, were motorcycles a part of your early life as a kid before fourth grade, or was it kind of cemented through after fourth grade?
No, I think it was really sort of cemented in fourth grade. The interest was always there. I mean, I grew up, I'm my parents are both Japanese, and I grew up watching like a lot of Japanese shows and stuff, and a lot of these
Yeah.
Japanese shows, they'd have like these custom motorcycles and stuff, like in their superhero, shows and stuff. Like Power Rangers, but it's like before the Power Rangers made it big in America, like, they were in Japan for a long time. And
right.
they'd always have like these tricked out motorcycles. Like there was this one Power Ranger that was kind of like an insect, and so he had a motorcycle that was kind of modded to look more like an insect. And you're like, look at it now, it's super cringy, but I mean, as a kid, you just think it's like the coolest thing, So I think, to be honest, I think that actually helped spark that curiosity in it. And then when my neighbor had it, and he said, a lot of the other kids didn't want to ride it, and they said, Greg, do you want to ride it? I'm like, yeah, I definitely do. So he showed me how to use, the throttle, the brake, and the clutch and stuff. And then it was off to the races after that.
So
nice.
Cool.
You said you did some software development, but then you also studied transportation design also, didn't you?
I did. So
what was that like? And did you already know you kind of wanted to transition from the software development side more into the motorcycle world or the design of transportation? Take us a little bit into that part of your life and how you went from one to the other.
Okay, yeah. Let me kind of go back. Like, I think an important part of my upbringing is that I grew up in a, Japanese immigrant family. My parents had a Japanese restaurant growing up in Salt Lake, Kyoto restaurant.
Yeah, cool.
And
Cool.
it was, my dad, he didn't really have a choice when he was growing up. He was kind of thrust into that career. And I think he always sort of wanted something different for me, so, but I think he wanted something more prestigious. So he wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, or, you know what I mean? Like kind of like a very stereotypical Asian parent. And,
I was going to say that stereotype, man.
Yeah, it's like I can't handle blood, or like, it's like, I'm just not a lawyer type, so I just thought I'd go into engineering. So, actually in high school, I remember that I wanted to design motorcycles, but, I was in this art class in high school, at Olympus High School, and I had this teacher, Mrs. McConkey, and she always kept all these catalogs from these different art schools, like in the classroom. And so I remember I ran into this art catalog from Art Center College where I went, and that was my dream to go, right? I would just be flipping through it, and it's like you just see these amazing models of these cool sketches and stuff.
Yeah.
And like that's when I really knew, like that's when it hit, is that's what I really want to do. But it seems so far away, you know what I mean? It seems so unobtainable because I grew up somewhat in California, Northern California, but the rest of my life was in Utah. And, I didn't have any family or friends in Southern California at the time. It just seemed so far away. And, so I just decided that I would go to the University of Utah and just, keep my folks happy. I studied software engineering, did like game development. I thought that would keep me happy. I was like ready to jump off a cliff when I was doing that after. I honestly, guys, like I didn't even play a video game after I quit video game development for like 5 years.
No shit.
Yeah,
No
Wow.
it
shit.
gave me so much anxiety. Like I would just be looking for bugs when I was playing games and stuff. And like,
Oh wow. So
great.
you started to kind of like analyze it more than enjoy it. Wow, what
yeah,
a trip.
yeah. So I just remember I
That's
was working for my
man.
dad's friend, and I had just started this job maybe a month in, and I told him, I said, "Look, brother, I can't keep doing this, man." It was only like 1 month, and it was like my dad's friend, and he was, I will say, he
Jeez.
was not thrilled when I quit, uh, and like, yeah, like, but I had to do what was right for me, you know. So I went
Right.
back
Yeah.
to
That's
school,
right.
and you know, it's like I fulfilled that high school dream. You know, I went to art center. I looked at a couple other schools and stuff, but really that was kind of the one for me, you know. And then that's basically it. That's history.
Yeah.
Killer.
Much better than 20 years down the road living full of regret, driving
Yeah,
yourself.
no doubt, no doubt.
That reminds me, man, the like video game looking for bugs. It's like it's like a chef going to a restaurant, eating out,
Yeah.
and oh, this sauce, the sauce is broken. That's my brother and I. That's my background is in culinary, and it kind of ruined it in a way, and took years for us to get back to a point where we could just go and enjoy ourselves. So a lot of people don't really understand what a motorcycle designer does. So can you kind of give us that in a nutshell, and also walk us through maybe your first project and what it was like taking a concept from your brain and paper into the real world?
Sure. You know, the process can be different from every single company. Like I've worked for, you know, Japanese companies, European companies, American companies. And it's kind of funny that, you
Mhm.
know, they all do the same thing, but go about it in a very different way. Like there are definitely things that are shared, but I was kind of surprised how much difference there was from studio to studio. But, you know, the universal things, you know, we always start off with sketches and research, right? Like, I mean, I should say research first and then sketches. You have to understand
Okay.
like whatever market that you're designing for. So we do a lot of research where we're just going to go into these markets and just kind of see it's like, how are they using it? You know, what are the things that are important to them? You know, I
Mhm.
think one thing as a designer that you always have to keep in mind, what you like is not necessarily what your customer likes, right? What's
What they
popular
want, right?
in your neighborhood is not necessarily what's popular in another neighborhood, right? So just sort of like,
Yeah.
even if you have tons of motorcycle experience and you've been around bikes your entire life, you know, it's like you have to kind of keep an open mind that like these other markets that you're designing for, you know, it's like their
Mhm.
requirements are different, their streets are different, you know, the way that they park is different, you know, because we're making these global
Yeah.
products, right? We're not making almost, we're
Right.
making global products. So we'll start off with that. To be honest, compared to a lot of other
Greg, who was your first gig with? Who was your first gig with when you graduated college?
so
When you went to the technical design?
after Art Center, I went to Suzuki first. They actually had a
Okay.
design studio down in Brea in Orange County. I will say when I was in
Mhm.
school, I did an internship and I was at GK Design. They're kind of the outside design company that works with Yamaha. And so I was working on, you know, Yamaha stuff when I was a intern during school.
Mhm.
And you know, I worked on things like Rhino. I don't know if you guys are into side by sides or not. You know, it's like we were working on like,
Yep.
Yeah, the Rhino stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Rhino accessories and stuff. But you know, when you're first a junior designer, a lot of the time you're kind of stuck doing things like accessories design, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like when I was at you know, it's like sometimes you got to do like soft goods too, you know, it's like the bags and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
it's, you know, it's not super girly or
Yeehaw.
anything, you know, but
Yeah.
I would say like my first motorcycle project, uh, just a little disclaimer. I can't go into too specific, like I can't really
Yeah, it's
talk
okay.
about like the specific models and stuff. But you know, it's like
Yeah.
with Suzuki, those guys are really heavy on the research, and so we would actually go to these places and record things. You know, we'd actually interview a lot of people, do a lot of
Cool.
these panels just to try to get as much information as possible, and then I would gather a lot
Mhm.
of inspiration, right? And the inspiration, you try to get inspiration that's not a motorcycle, because then you just draw the same motorcycle. So you're trying to get inspiration from
Yeah.
other things, right?
Right.
Um,
That's funny.
and a lot of times, like, you're trying to get inspiration from things that other guys aren't drawing the same inspiration from, so that you can actually come up with a unique solution.
Mhm.
Something different than what everybody else, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's like lots of eagles or like lions and stuff like that, like for sports. So I always try to stay away from that stuff, So I started looking at things like, mathematics. It's like, I think that's just like my techie side, but looking at, things like fractals and stuff, fractals in nature. You got like a Nautilus shell.
Yeah.
And so I was working on this one. I'll just say it was a sport bike when I was at Suzuki. And the sport bike actually the inspiration was from a Nautilus. And so just kind of,
From a novelist.
yeah, from a Nautilus, right? Like the little kind of squid looking thing with a shell.
Oh, Nautilus. Got it.
And it's like this bike had, looking at the radiator exits and like the front fairing, the tail fairing and stuff, a lot of it kind of had this inspiration from the inner chambers of the Nautilus, how it's just sort of this repeating pattern inside,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would just sit there and just sketch all day, like, side views mostly, but front 3/4, rear 3/4, and once you kind of develop a theme that people like, right? We take that theme, we'll develop it, and at a certain point, once you get sign off, you take it to a 3D model. We'll do either clay
Mhm.
modeling. We still do a lot of clay modeling in the industry, but then, some studios just do digital. We're just going to build it in 3D.
Yeah.
We're starting to see more
Yeah.
and more VR as well.
Mhm.
But at some point, we got to go from a sketch into something that's 3D, right? Because you can't really fake the 3D. Now, with the sketches, you can draw whatever you want, and it might defy,
Sure.
it's like it might like defy physics, right? Or it might be like an optical illusion, and you just don't realize it. But once you get it into 3D, you can't cheat that. It's like it's very
Right.
modest. And
Yeah.
from there we'll go and we'll make like a hard model, which is usually either milled foam or 3D printed parts. And we'll take that model to, say, well, actually sometimes with even the clay model, we'll go into the wind tunnel, right? And then we'll actually test it in the wind tunnel, because obviously we want like a low coefficient of drag, but we also want good comfort. If your head is bobbling the entire
Right.
time, it's just not comfortable. And
Right.
after, it's just a lot of back and forth with the engineers.
Yeah.
I can't just
Yeah.
draw what I want. It's like it's always a collaboration with the engineers. So,
Right.
Gotcha.
And that's a fun relationship to manage, I'm sure. And like the Fibonacci sequence in the Nautilus, what's the most surprising thing that you've drawn inspiration from? That might be a hard question.
it's weird. Like sometimes you get inspiration from just the simplest things, right? It's like I think as a designer, one of your jobs when you're not working, one of your jobs when you're not working, is you're continually looking for those new streams of inspiration, right? And it could be something really,
Yeah.
really subtle, right? Because I did a stint in Japan, and when I was living there, I remember that I went and saw this store that had this beautiful Japanese lacquerware, right? So I'm just kind of looking around, and you're seeing all these like beautiful bowls and stuff like that, handcrafted,
Yeah.
hand painted, but you're kind of looking at the
Amazing.
stuff. It wasn't about perfection. It was about embracing the imperfection of it and kind of seeing the hand of the artist in it. And so
Yeah.
I thought something like that was really, really cool. And it's almost
That is.
the opposite of what we see in production motorcycles, right? So I kept
Sure.
thinking, like, how can we actually bring like a little bit of that, like the hand of the artist in there, because like it's like
Handmade sort of,
this stuff we make, sometimes it feels a little cold. You know what I mean? Like it feels so
Yeah.
like mechanical and
Right.
stuff. And sometimes you're like, I want something that says that a human touched this. You know what I mean? Like a human took part in this.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. Greg, let me ask you this. From Suzuki to Polaris, Victory, Kawasaki, now Piaggio, how did those transitions shape you? What I'm asking is basically take us into what each company's requirements taught you for the next transition as you travel through each manufacturer.
Okay, yeah, it's like I think Suzuki was really sort of my second school, really, right? Because these guys were so heavy into writing and research. They probably wrote and did more research than all the other studios. And so it was pretty interesting to kind of be in that Suzuki studio and stuff because, one thing is a motorcycle designer, if you design bikes in a Japanese company, you're not just working on two-wheelers. I had to sketch on side by sides. I had to sketch on ATVs, in addition to the motorcycles and stuff. So
Wow.
those were markets that I didn't really have a lot of exposure to growing up. And so it was really interesting for me to sort of like, learn more about it, right? Learn more about those markets, their customer base, what they like, what they need. I didn't have a ton of cruiser experience growing up. So it was pretty interesting for me when I was at Suzuki, like, we would ride, we went some long distance rides, man. It's like a long,
That'd be cool.
I
On what? Boulevards? Would you have boulevards?
I mean, boulevards, but we did a lot of road, like, we do a lot of competitive testing back then. So, I'd ride Harleys or Kawasaki's, the Star when Star was still around, some of those Star motorcycles.
Right.
We would do a lot of competitive comparison and stuff. So, I've a lot of seat time like on a street glide or a lot of street time, obviously on the boulevards as well, so lots of different bikes. But
what a terrible profession you chose.
yeah, it was, that was,
Hey, you get to get not only do you get to design them, you get to ride all of them too.
I think that's
Hey, you know what?
I think that's the benefit, like, with the automotive guys, the guys that I went to school with, they all went to designing cars. And, I don't know if they get the same opportunities with bikes. Like, we really need to know how these things work. So we have to actually spend a lot of seat time, So
Yeah.
yeah,
Shock.
it's a great part of it.
Yeah.
Cages are a completely different beast from two wheels. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's so different from a cruiser to a sport bike to an adventure bike to, any other thing that's out there and stuff, so you just really have to understand, like if you're, I rode my R6. I had an R6 when I was at Suzuki. They were not thrilled with that, but I had an R6.
yeah, I was gonna say, man,
Yeah.
that must have been like, what the hell are you doing pulling up on an R6 here?
Uh-huh.
And I remember I rode from Orange County up to Laguna Seca for the MotoGP race, like on my R6. And like, man, I was younger back then and it still sucked, right? Like I was just riding it and the entire time I'm thinking I should have borrowed like a Harley or I should have borrowed like a, but this sort of like getting,
How long was that ride?
sorry,
How long was that ride?
I think it took me about 6 hours.
Okay.
Damn, on an R6, yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That's a long day on the
I'm not
on that bike.
doing that again.
No. Man. So you mentioned working in Japan, and so you've worked in both the U.S. and Japan. What surprised you most about the differences in the design process, and what did it take for you to adapt creatively?
I think so. A couple things with the Japanese studios I thought was really, even though I knew it was coming because growing up in a Japanese family, I mean, I'm very American. My parents are Japanese, but growing up in Utah, I'm so like I'm just very, very American. I just didn't really have like a lot of Asian friends growing up. And so like when I went over there, I knew that these things would come, but like it still surprised me, like the amount of planning that the Japanese have, it's crazy, right? So they
Right.
have a schedule and they really, really stick to it. And I mean, they plan way far out, much further than the Americans, much further than the Europeans. So the Japanese, like, they have a plan, they're going to stick with it. So that's one.
Yeah.
I think, two, it's just, I feel with the Japanese, it was kind of interesting how old school they were, right? Like, I mean, I think the Americans, the Europeans, they tend to be a little bit more progressive when it comes to things like stepping away from clay. But the Japanese, they really, really revere developing bikes in clay. I think it's just because, they really want to make sure that they have all the ergonomics down pat with the Japanese.
Right.
They want to be able to walk
Mhm.
around it. And I feel like maybe it's a cultural thing, but I think that there's something about the craftsmen that are involved doing the clay work,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so they just really
Absolutely.
they wanted to sort of keep that as part of the process. And when I tried to go, more digital and stuff, there was like just a little bit of pushback, you know?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
With how different the cultures are, the motorcycle cultures between Japan and between America, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no.
I'm curious, did that translate in any other way besides the craftsmanship that impacted the design process?
Um, I think that it wasn't so much like well, I'll tell you the things that I kind of noticed, like because like just physically, Japanese people are just a little bit smaller than Americans. It's like
Okay.
especially when they're designing products for the American market or the European market. I always have to.
Mhm.
I felt like I was kind of reminding them. It's like, hey, like they're bigger than you guys, so it's like that's like
Oh,
maybe
gotcha.
for
Gotcha.
springs or like I
Wild.
my first bike in college was a SV650, and I don't know if you guys ever rode those much, but like the front springs on that bike are super soft.
Yeah.
Soft.
Yeah, like
So for somebody heavy or big, it would bottom out all the time, right?
I mean, I don't think I'm that big, but I remember when I rode off the first time I bought it and I came to the first red light, like I felt like I was almost gonna go over the bars because like I was how much it
No shit.
yeah,
That dived that bad. Wow.
um
Damn.
so yeah, it's like just sort of keeping that package in mind that like we have to package for a Western rider, you know.
Mhm.
Understand.
I think that just sort of being in Japan and being surrounded by in America, I don't everything that you see is new, right? And when I say
Mhm.
new, I mean you don't really see much that's older than say like 100 years old, right?
Yeah.
And in other countries, you see that regularly, So I think sort
That's
of
right.
being surrounded by that stuff, and even if you're not trying to take that stuff in, you just sort of subconsciously start absorbing that stuff around you. So it's
Sure.
kind of
Yeah.
interesting that I think a lot of that sort of manifests itself in the design, right? So they might
Mm.
see a feature like on, I don't know, like the roof of a temple or something and say, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then they just don't even realize that they actually incorporated like something about that into their design, you know?
That's
No
fascinating.
kidding.
So
No
I
kidding.
think that's the
Wow.
biggest thing that I kind of see is that like there's always going to be that little bit of influence from your surroundings as a designer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny that you talked about the clay part of it too. I just finished reading Willie G's new book, right? And he talked about during beginning of those 80s and 90s where they would work on a lot of the clay projects before they would start anything. This was before the 3D graphics and all that shit started coming in. When you had real artists, man, like designing a motorcycle from clay, which was amazing. And the stories he told were just so awesome. And then you bring that up, realize that, that's amazing how the design of motorcycles has changed in regards to the way they were sculptured at first. And now everything's computer based, right? Do you see the clay anymore in the industry?
Yeah. We still see it a lot. Like,
You do. You
yeah.
still see it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think, the automotive guys, I think it's a lot easier to go full digital when you're automotive just because the outside of a car is just basically a big it's a big blob of surface. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you can kind of, it's like you have like a lot of room to sort of play around with the surfaces. But a motorcycle is
Mhm.
so much more intimate because I mean your body is up against it, right? So
That's right.
you can't, it's like doing those ergo checks, just sort of seeing like how it feels when you sit on it is so important. And you can't just have yourself.
Mhm.
You have to have tall guys, short guys, women,
That's right.
Right.
skinny people, larger
Yep.
people. You kind of have a
Yep.
whole range of people just trying it out. And there's really no way for us to simulate that on the computer yet, right? It's just not practical.
You got it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Got it. Greg, let me ask you this. One of your most famous projects is the Aprilia Touareg 660. How did that bike come to life, and what were the big ideas or emotional goals you had when you started designing it?
So the Touareg, like, it was not one that I led, but it was just something that I sketched on like in the early part, and then someone else actually took it and took it to production. But for me, that bike, just sort of seeing that rider, it's like the adventure rider, um, especially for like more of like the middle segment, instead of doing something really big like a GS or something, looking more in
Mm-hmm.
like that middle segment, just getting more research on that, right? So it's like going out to these events and just kind of talking to people and just saying, it's like, what are the things that you're looking for? It's challenging because really that market is a lot bigger, I think, in Europe than it is here. And so, and that
Yeah,
me
for
being
sure.
like an American-based designer, I can't really fly over to like Italy, on a whim just to go talk to people and stuff. But a lot of it is just sort of doing even like research online, you know. So it always starts off with that. And then, the other thing is that you kind of look at what are the things that these guys are really concerned with. Like, it's a very functional bike. And so looking at the things that they want functionally and sort of starting from that, right? So, what kind of luggage are they going to be carrying? Like, what kind of, uh, uh, it's like, what worst case scenario, what kind of terrain are they going to be on? Right? Like, how do we actually make this into a bike that doesn't just look good, but something that actually like functions really well and wins races,
Right,
right?
right,
So
right.
those were like really, really sort of important markers for us. And then from there, you just start, riffing off that. You kind of look at just those functions, and you just try to, you kind of try to create like, color within the lines, because I think the strange thing with design is a lot of times if they just say, Greg, just design whatever you want, that's sometimes harder than if I'm just given
Yeah.
parameters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not
Right.
Like
having
it's
yeah.
interesting. Like if they're like, Greg, just draw whatever you want, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. But if
Yeah.
it's because like I think as a designer, like our primary job is actually problem solving. And so when you're given parameters, it's like, all right, this is what these guys need. How do we deliver this? Right? And we still need to make it look a certain way, but like how do we deliver this end product and stuff, right? So that problem
Yeah.
solving
Right.
part is actually what fuels us.
Got it. Hey, quick question before Ben gets to the next one. When you are designing, let's go to the Touareg, right? When you guys started working on that, obviously, do you give us a little secret? Do designers steal other ideas when you have bikes that are similar models by different manufacturers? Do you guys kind of compare what they have to what you do, what you're designing for this one? Do you kind of rip each other's ideas off, or is it mainly like what's your ideal situation? Not even see anything and just kind of design it and then realize what it needs or what it doesn't?
I mean, I think that we do it purposely and subconsciously because we'll do like a lot of competitive, we compare like the different models that are on the market, and we try to take note of the things that are really popular, like good features that maybe the Yamaha has, or it's like
Mhm.
the Honda has, right? So we're looking at these other things and we're taking those notes, right? And just saying, this is what the customers want. Now, for me, what I always try to do is like, if there is a feature that the customers like on this model, I always try to think, is there a different way that we could do it that's better? Right?
Right.
Because like I think that's the things that you're always trying to sort of invent something. You're trying to come up with like a better product for the end user. Um, it's not always
Yeah.
possible. We've got like a lot of manufacturing constraints, a lot of budget constraints. That's probably like the hardest thing, is that how do we sort of design these things? If you have like a really
Okay.
big
Yeah.
idea,
Thanks.
it's really hard to push through just because, you've got like budget constraints and stuff, like a
Mhm.
lot of what comes out, a lot of the projects have features that we wish weren't left on the cutting room floor, you know? So there's
Mhm.
a lot of those things, you know? Um,
Yeah.
Yep.
but we try to always do something original. Like, I think it's kind of funny, I feel like the Italians especially, they just have a lot of pride in their work, and they in their originality and their Italianness, right? And, like, we
Yeah.
make sure we sort of
Yeah.
put that in there. Um, I think, like, the the Japanese, like they also, I think that they kind of feel like there's like this stigma that they just copy. And so for them, like
Mm.
it's always been important, especially Kawasaki, to do their own thing. Um, that's actually one of the reasons why I went to Kawasaki in the first place is because when that H2R came out, their supercharged bike with like 300 horsepower, that thing was nuts.
Killer bike.
I was
Nuts.
Yeah.
well, it's,
I'm a Kawasaki guy, man.
yeah, like I just saw that and I'm like, dude, there's
I-
no other company that has the balls to do that. You know what I mean? So it's like,
they've always had. I mean, the Widowmaker back in the 70s,
yeah,
man. I mean, well, the stuff that they've come out with, they've always kind of gone. That's why I love them so much compared to the other ones. I like the other brands too, but something about Kawi is that they're always kind of like they take that risk that nobody else does in the
Mhm.
Japanese market, and then they hit it out of the park with it.
I think, you know, for me, I really like that sort of authenticity that they have because, you know, I think Kawasaki, they are unapologetically Kawasaki. You know,
I
it's like
love that.
I love that. You know, it's like that's like my favorite thing about it. You know, it's like they will do
That's
things that
me
are just
too.
Kawi, you know, and I think that's really important for this market, you know. I don't think that people want like a
Agreed.
copy. I think they
Yeah.
want products that are actually authentic and like really speak to them
Originality.
Agreed.
with a unique
Yeah.
message.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So here's kind of an abstract question. A lot of people ride their motorcycle without thinking about the soul behind the lines and the curves. How do you balance and how do you approach balancing form, function, and feeling in design?
That one's a tough one. I think it's just a lot of iterations, right? It's like uh
Mm.
you know, it never happens on the first try. You know, like every
Yeah.
single bike is, you know, you are seeing, you know, the 100th version of that bike. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much back and forth that kind of goes along with it. You know, there's so much like heartache that goes into it, right? Like I think if people saw from start to finish how much work goes into a bike and how many, you know, it's like things that you fight for, how many things that you lose, how many things you win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These things are really important to the, you know, the people who are working on it. I mean, you know, going back to the engineers, you know, I actually love working with the engineers, you know, because they make me look good.
Really?
You know, yeah, they make me look and like
Okay.
if you don't have a good relationship with the engineers, you're gonna have a really hard
Yes.
time as a designer. You know, like
Really?
you have to be able to communicate with them because if they're not on your team, they're not gonna do you any favors, man. You know, so it's like
Right.
Yeah.
you've got to understand like, you know, building a bike, it's definitely it's a team thing, right? It really, really is.
Yeah.
You know, working
Yeah.
with the accountants too, right? But I wish, you know, just seeing that iteration and that back and forth, you know, we have like a lot of moments where things get tense, man. Like these meetings, like, you know, they get fiery.
Yeah.
You know, like people yell at
Yeah.
each other and stuff. It's like, no, we've got to have
Dang.
this, or it's like we can't afford it, and it's just things get
Right.
Yeah.
it can get pretty crazy. Um, but I'm really proud of all the bikes that I've worked on because it's the product of a lot of work, a lot of emotion. You know, we pour ourselves into every single product. You know, so
Yeah.
I just you know, there may be some things that I wish that I could change about it in the end, but I have zero regrets on these bikes, you know, because
Right.
at the
Yeah.
end, like I left everything out there. So it's, yeah, it's,
That's
it
awesome.
can be a very emotional thing.
Yeah. Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, one gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the US for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a butt buffer for every rider's style. Get your butt buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
I wanted to ask you a question on this side. How when I found you through LinkedIn, right, I kind of saw in your Behance and then LinkedIn, your Moto F1, your futuristic sport bike pictures that you post, some of the aircraft inspired designs that you've done.
Mhm.
Um, are those passions or something you kind of feel like you'd like to dive into?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think those, if it's a passion, it is definitely something that I'd like to dive into. Like, for the longest time, I've been thinking about that aircraft inspired bike. I think I've just kind of settled on calling it the Corsair. But the Corsair is a bike that, I've been sort of, I built it in 3D and I've been printing out parts for it. And I keep thinking maybe I should actually just figure out how to, maybe take a metal shaping class and actually make one for myself, because
Yeah.
I think that, for a designer, it's not just about, these images. You can't write an image, right? Like you want to make it
Right.
real. That is the
Right.
true like satisfaction that you get as a designer. And I've thought about, just building it in my garage, right? So that you've got that, or the Moto F1 was just sort of this harebrained idea where, when I was at Suzuki, we rode down in a Glamis, and
Yep.
we're taking a bunch of ATVs down there. We took like some LTR 450s down to Glamis, and we're just riding them around. I did not really give ATVs much thought when I was growing up. I was like, why would I want these four wheels? But I have to admit, like in
Yeah.
the desert with more flotation and
It's
more
fun.
traction, it's handy because like it's hard riding a dirt bike in the sand. It's you
Yeah.
dig in really fast. But I just kept thinking, what if we could take this and just make it a street legal thing, And then originally it was the concept was, can we actually do a Hayabusa engine in there? Because, Suzuki's House of Hayabusa, right? And I kept thinking,
It's awesome.
can we make a platform out of this? Like, these different Hayabusa powered, vehicles and stuff. So I just thought, it would be so cool if there's some people who can't ride two wheels, you know what I mean? And that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that we need to have like a, something for everybody. But I just thought,
Yeah.
Mhm.
at the time I was thinking, what if you could take like the hottest F1 star and then the hottest like motorcycle star and have them race on a vehicle that's kind of like neutral? You know what I mean? Like, what if you had like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like Lewis Hamilton versus like Valentino Rossi on a vehicle like that? So that's why I called it the Moto F1. It's like MotoGP and F1 just sort of stuck together.
So
Too
cool,
cool, man. Too cool. Quick question before we move on. We've had builders on the show, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of our builders have said, well, we've asked them like, how does your design go? What do you build around? Most of the builders build around the engine, right? So they'll lay the engine down and then they kind of form the frame around it, the design, the concept, the lines of the bike from the engine on. As a designer, how do you approach the project? What do you design around?
I think a lot of it, to be honest, like I think a lot of the secret sauce, as far as I'm concerned, um, a lot of motorcycle design for production, you see a lot of side view sketches. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
put it to you this way: a side view sketch, that's like drawing the exterior of a car. That's what people see
Mhm.
when they walk around and stuff. The plan view, which is looking, from top down, that's
Mhm.
analogous to the interior of a car, because that's
Yeah.
actually what you see when you're riding it, right? You're seeing the top of the
Mhm.
tank, you're seeing the front fairing, you're seeing the gauges, you're seeing the handlebars. That's like the interior of the car, right? And when you look at a lot of these bikes, like a lot of people say Ducatis are so sexy because they've got so much like, there's something about it,
Yeah.
right? I would throw out that like I think that a lot of the reason why some of these bikes are so sexy is because they have a really thin waist, and then they actually get wider in the right. And when you kind of look at
Interesting.
plan view, the I think the plan view is actually like really underrated when it comes to motorcycles. It's really, really important because that's actually what you interact with, right? Like
Mhm.
that actually tells you like how splayed out are your legs around the tank, right? That's
Right.
Yeah.
out in plan view. What are you seeing when you're sitting on the bike, right? That is worked out in plan view. So just kind of having this shape, like if you have a voluptuous shape in plan view, believe it or not, like once you start doing that, it actually translates into the side view as well, right? And it kind of gives it like a certain, it's light where you want it to be light, and then strong where you want it to be strong, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So I know it sounds weird, but I've actually done a lot of bikes. I've tried to figure out the plan view before I start sketching things. Like, just for example,
Interesting.
at Polaris, when I started, sketching on cruisers, I didn't really have a ton of cruiser experience, but, I had worked on projects like Challenger. I worked on a bunch of Victory bikes. And what I was realizing is that, cruisers, plan view is so important for that, right? I know a lot of people look at that diagonal line that goes from the top of the neck, down to the rear axle.
Yep.
There's a diagonal line.
Yep.
Are you talking about the Victory?
Or just cruisers in general, even. Yeah. Like just, I feel like there's sort of like a diagonal line that kind of comes down. And it's that like is always felt like a very defining sort of character of cruisers. But I think another thing is that like the tank shape from the plan view is actually super, super important. You have a skinny V-twin, and like you can keep that seat really, really narrow at the front of the seat, much more narrow than you can with like say inline four, So it's
Right.
sort of interesting. Like, so I start with that plan view so I can understand the volumes, right? And then I start working around the other things. I don't know if that answers your
Gotcha.
makes
Thanks for answering now.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect, man. That's exactly.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to hear it from a designer's point of view. We've always heard it from the builder's point of view.
So judging by your background, you still sketch by hand, I would guess, because that's insane behind you there. But let's talk tools. So speaking of plan view and side view, what about your digital environment, your creation process? You've mentioned Blender and SolidWorks. How has the advance of technology impacted your design process?
I would say the last 5 years, it's changed more than ever. I mean, VR came in and it's been a pretty big deal for most studios. Most recently, I would say AI has had, it's infiltrating every single studio, every single one. So it's been interesting to see how that sort of plays out.
Like generative design specifically, or what other aspect of AI are you speaking of?
Yeah, like generative design, there are tools like Viscom or Optic where you can give it a 2D line drawing like this. You can give it a line drawing and then it'll actually, you feed it to the AI and it'll just give you, it almost looks like you render it in 3D.
Yeah.
It's realistic, right?
Jeez.
So you've got like Viscom.
What are the names of those tools?
Viscom is
crap.
one and then Optic is the other one.
It's common Optic.
So, my only hesitation about talking about these is that like, if there are any kids out there that want to become motorcycle designers, it's still, even though even if you have tools like that, there's still times where you still have to draw just by hand, and drawing by hand helps you understand the design better so that you can judge those designs better. And so it's still really, really important that they learn how to sketch and sketch well. There are times where AI will not save your ass, right? Like there are many situations. Like we might use it in the early stages where we're just trying to get like, new random ideas. But when you're getting down to like the specific things like closer to production, it's like I'm drawing very tight sketches for engineers. And I just say, all right, I need a cover that clears this, thing that sticks out. And AI doesn't understand that context. So I can't like give me a cover that clears this thing that sticks out of the engine, or I need like 5 millimeters of clearance on this part. It does not understand that. So it's still really important that you learn how to sketch. What I do is that I think I'm fairly unique in that like, because I was a developer before, I'm pretty nerdy when it comes to the computer stuff. So I'm actually running Linux on my workstation. And the 3D I've been using lately has been Blender, but we'll use Cinema 4D. There's another program called Alias that has been, for decades, that's what the automotive industry's been using. Same with the motorcycle industry. Rhino, those are some of the 3D tools. I keep Windows around because some of those tools I can only get on Windows. and so I have to
Yep.
have it. But I'll use those, and then for sketching, I use a 2D app called a Krita, Krita. It's another open source app, but like I like it because I can write my own, plugins for it. And so I'll write
Yeah.
plugins for it. Or
Scripts.
with Blender, I'm writing a couple plugins for that as well.
Very cool.
But it's just, for me, I think that's my secret sauce, is that I'm able to combine my previous career experience and actually make me stronger as a designer now. So in the latest 2.0 V4 that just came out for this year, I'd actually written some 3D tools that were actually used in the production of that bike.
No way.
Yeah. Like that bike is, they like, I actually used some plugins for the 3D program that we use at Piaggio, and I was able to actually output parts that actually, became production and stuff with these tools.
So cool.
That's what I try to do.
That's
Cool, man. Yeah. What do you sketch on digitally? Do you work off of like a tablet, or do you have one of the pads that plugs into the desktop? What's your design process look like?
I use a Cintiq, a Wacom Cintiq. So it's just one of those screens that, you draw on the screen. I think in school I used a regular tablet where you have the screen up here and then the tablet down below. And like, I couldn't get used to it. Like just looking up while you're
jointed.
Well, what about the Etch-a-Sketch?
Yeah,
as a kid, remember? Were you that kid that had those badass pictures while everybody else had the stick figures on there or what?
I don't know how those guys do it. I wish that was me. That's
so funny. I wanted to ask you a question. I hope I don't butcher the name, but you had a close relationship with your mentor. Is it Koi Iguchi?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you mentor others, as we were talking about prior to starting the show, where you teach other kids. What did he teach you that you carry into every design, and how do you pass the torch on based on what he taught you?
I think the most important thing that he taught me was that passing of the torch is important. That's actually like the passing of the torch is actually super, super important because, he didn't charge me anything to, it's like he helped me because he wanted to help me, so I try to help as many of these kids as I can because as much as I enjoyed my time in art center, being a motorcycle design student was difficult because their curriculum is not geared towards us, right? They're trying to teach automotive design. And so, I remember there's a class where I said, they said, Greg, what do you want to do this term? And I said, I want to do a bike. And he's like, nope, that is not going to happen. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm paying like tuition here, right? And he just said, look, you can do it, but I can't give you feedback because I don't know how to judge your project, right? Because this is a different, set of knowledge that I don't possess. So the teachers just said, I'm not trying to be mean to you. I'm just saying that like, I can't help you with that project. So you can do it, but then I can't give you like any kind of critique or anything,
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
For me, like kind of going back to school, I'm lucky enough to live back close to my alma mater. And so a lot of these students that want to get into motorcycle design, I'm able to actually go there and help them out. I've helped them actually get jobs in the industry and stuff and just gain a better understanding of, how, motorcycle design works, so I just want to make their path smoother than mine was because someone else definitely helped me with mine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I would say like if they're interested, they don't have to go to a design college, but it's really hard if you don't. I will say it's really hard if you don't. Like I've met a couple who have done it, but I don't know if I was strong enough to do it that way. I don't, so Art Center, there's CCS in Detroit. And there's a bunch of other schools like globally that are very, very good, but you want to look for a strong transportation program. Yep.
That's legit. So Serge, I love something you said, that motorcycles are functional sculpture. Can you give us an example of a design that you've been a part of that felt really stuck out to you, more so feeling like art than functional design?
well, I don't know. I hope that every bike that I design is functional as far as like the art side of it goes. Um,
hmm
let me
And maybe
actually,
I shouldn't have said functional design, but it's still functional, obviously, but something that stands out to you that felt more like art or that scratched that artistic itch a little bit.
gotcha. Let me just kind of, for me, like there's art and then there's design and, the Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap, but I think that they are still like two different things. I think
hmm
for me, like art is about when you have something that you want to say and you express yourself through your art, right? And then
Mm.
design is uh you're designing something for someone else, right? Usually for a lot of
Yeah.
for a mass audience, so
Right.
design is more about, it's like trying to understand your audience and designing for them versus art is more about like you have a message and you're trying to put it out there. So like I
Great
think
definition.
the thing for me is that the stuff that I'll put up on like Behance or Instagram, like I don't post too much of my professional work just because I just need to be careful about what I post. Um,
Of course.
but it's like a lot of stuff that I do have up on my socials. It's just some itch that I needed to scratch. It's like that Moto F1, the four-wheel vehicle. I just thought this
Right.
is something that's just, I think it's an interesting thing that I don't see out there, and I just want to put it out there and see what people say.
I hope nobody steals your design.
Well, if they give me royalties, like I'm cool.
Right. And you should put for sale on top of it.
Yeah.
For
But
the
like,
right price. Hey, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, even the Corsair bike, this was something where the Corsair bike for me, I looked at that as, I mean, it is built on a Ducati platform because that's someone had
Mm.
made that Ducati platform free online, just the 3D parts. And
Ah,
I didn't
cool.
want to
Yeah.
model all that stuff all over again myself. So I just pulled that down and then used it as a base. But the idea behind the Corsair bike is you have these Japanese bikes, you have these Italian bikes, you've got these European sport bikes. They kind of look the same. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's a lot of similarity and stuff. And
Very
what I was
much.
trying to say is like, for me as an American, can I actually come up with a sport bike that has its own flavor that says American? So I looked at a
Yeah.
lot of like vintage American aircraft, and that's why it looks the way that it does. I was looking at, airplanes from like the 50s and the 60s,
Nice.
um,
Nice.
you know, but I wanted something where it felt very American, instead of looking like the a common thing when the S1000 first came out is that a lot of people said this looks a lot like an R6, right? And this is one of those things where it's like it's like they have a design that's very, very successful, and it happens to look like an R6 and stuff. It's functional, right? But on this one, I don't know if it's going to be good in the wind tunnel or not, but I just wanted to do something for me. I just said, hey, I just want to do something that's unique and just says America,
Yeah.
That's
So
super
there's-
cool, man. That was a cool design. Shit. That was
Thank you,
awesome
brother.
in my opinion. But
Appreciate it.
hey, let me ask you this. We kind of touched on the AI generated stuff, but with electric bikes, autonomous concepts, and everything with the AI generated designs looming around, what excites you and what scares you about the future of motorcycle design from somebody who's in it day in and day out?
I will tell you, like, what excites me, and I know that this might be a little bit controversial, but I'm actually I'm excited about electric bikes, and I'll tell you why. The reason why I'm excited about electric is because we're given this opportunity to design something that the world's never seen before. So, this is actually something that I am building in my garage.
Nice.
I took a GTS 1000, right? It has like a front swing arm, and I put like a motor and batteries in it. And the reason why I did it is because um I just when you're talking about the custom builders, they build around the engine. What happens when the engine's not there and it's a motor and batteries? And the batteries can be
Yeah.
whatever shape you want it to be, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, as a designer and as an artist, it gives you all these new opportunities that we never had
Exciting.
before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me,
Yeah.
it's actually very interesting. Like, what can we do with it? Because um, my biggest complaint with electric bikes right now, besides cost and range, but like as far as design goes, my biggest complaint is this. I feel like we're at electric bike 1.0 because you just took a gas bike, you drop the engine, you just put in like
Yeah.
and like
Right.
that is what I'm doing here. Don't get me wrong. I realize this. But the idea that at least this one has a different frame, it has a different front end.
Yeah.
We're doing something different with the package. We have, it's like there are so many possibilities, and I'm still waiting for electric bike 2.0. You know what
So
I mean?
instead of forks, you put a swing arm in the front. Is that what the design is?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
That's wild. So you got two swing arms basically on the frame.
yeah, this one, the idea is in the back, I was gonna swap out with a VFR 750 swing arm, so it's single-sided rear, and then the
Right.
GTS has a single-sided front. So from the right side, all you see is wheel. You know what I mean? Like
Man.
there's no swing arm in the back. or
Yeah, it's killer.
like, super.
Tron. It's like a Tron bike, man.
So it's
Gosh.
it's mostly an aesthetic thing, but I'm just saying it's like, we have this opportunity with motorcycles to do something really creative and really new with electric. And so that's interesting to me. But the other thing that is interesting to me and why it gets me sort of like why I'm sort of excited about the future, around California and other cities, like, it's like around other states, you see a lot of these little electric dirt bikes around. And like, here's the thing, the motorcycle industry, like the average customer is like over 45, right? It's
Right.
like, it keeps getting older every single year by a lot, right? So that's just telling me that we're not really gaining like new young riders. And these kids that are riding these electric bikes, I mean, they're kind of annoying and stuff, but at the same time, we like, I mean, I was a menace when I was younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got to give them like that freedom. It's like they like their own thing, they're doing their own thing. It's like they're being a menace in their own way. Like we can't fault them for that because we were the same way, right?
The difference between them and us is we had two-stroke oil smells and very loud exhausts.
Yeah.
Where the electric bikes is very quiet and peaceful. So they're just flying around because they're fast as hell.
I mean, I had a chance to ride one around for a couple weeks, and like I won't lie, man, like if I were in high school, I would be a menace on that thing because like you can like, I'm not saying you should, but you can ride through neighborhoods, like go through parks and stuff, and no one bats an eye because it's quiet. And it's like it opened up a whole new part of the city to me because I'm like, dude, this thing I can go anywhere and no one cares, and
Right.
I'm not saying that you should, but like, it's different.
Good.
Like I still love the sound of a V4. I own an RS-V4, so I love the V4s, right?
Nice. Yep.
But
Yep.
at the same time, I totally understand the appreciation for being able to go really fast and really quiet. It's actually pretty interesting because like I don't have to have I always ride with earplugs. I'm one of those guys. But with electric, with these little electric dirt bikes and stuff, not necessary. So I don't know, man. Like the average age for that has to be like 20 or something. So but the question is this, like I'm excited about it, but this is like the challenge that I have for the motorcycle industry. They're going to grow out of that. What do we have for them to go to next? Right? Because that's the question that we should be asking. It's not how do we get rid of these guys and stuff. No. It's like, how do we actually like cultivate these riders and like get them on that next bike? What, when they go to college, are they going to take that with them? Probably not. Right? It's a lot of these high school kids and middle school kids. But what is it we're going to want to ride after that?
Greg, let me ask you this, right? You know what I see? I just feel like, I guess I'm older than both of you guys, so I still have that old school, old man mentality. But the thing is that my opinion with electric bikes to gas powered bikes is the fact that with electric bikes, it's a battery in, battery out. Everything's pretty disposable and quick. Where I think with the gas powered bikes, just a little bit more on hands-on maintenance. You need to kind of understand the bike a little bit better, how everything functions in order to really appreciate what you're riding. And I think what is taking place with this newer generation is because, everything is so instant, easily disposable, easily interchangeable, easily forgotten and thrown in the trash, and you just buy another one. That's kind of what I feel about with what's happening is the fact that, these kids, like you're saying, are they going to take it with them? No, they're not going to take it with them. They'll buy one when they're up there, or they'll get something that can replace it up there where it doesn't have that same feel as, putting the clutch in and
Yeah.
shifting the gear and then I don't know, maybe that's just my old man shit that I'm bitching about, but I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it.
This is the way I look at it, is that like my first bike in college was an SV650S. I love that bike, but I did a lot of work on it. So I swapped out the front end with G6R front end. I put a ZX10R rear shock. I cleaned those carbs,
Nice.
I don't know how many times. It's like I put bigger jets in it, like took the snorkel out of the air box. The typical things that the SV guys do. It was a way simpler time because like I'm not afraid to wrench on an old SV, but like my RSV4 is daunting, man. Like there's so many wires and computers and like, like I think gas bikes nowadays have gotten so complicated. Like even Harleys, man, they're all like water cooled and stuff.
Agreed.
I mean, I learned on a much simpler bike. And to be honest, when I look at these new electric bikes, as far as complexity goes, maybe it's actually kind of similar. You know what I mean? Because if we're looking at like the electric bikes to the gas bikes of now, like is almost like looking at a gas bike from the 70s to a gas bike of now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Good
And
point.
when I
Good point. Yep.
a lot of these kids that have the electric dirt bikes, they mod the shit out of those things. I mean, they put new controllers, motors, batteries.
Yep.
They might cost like $3,000-4,000. They'll put easily another $6,000 into those things. And like like some of the stuff that they're doing is actually fairly sophisticated, so I think it's just this. They're daunted by opening an RSV4, and I totally get it because I'm comfortable wrenching, but even me, like these new bikes, I'm scared that I'm going to clip the wrong wire or like, I'm going to screw
of course.
And like, they're starting at that entry level just like we did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like we got to give them that, it's like, let them have it. It's like, I like different music than my old man, and that's fine.
Yeah.
My kids like different things than I do. And I think it's, but the thing is this, I don't think it's like we can have both. We can keep the gas bikes and the electrics. I don't see it where it's like we have to have one or the other. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
right.
So it's like if they want it, cool. It's like let's make it.
Yeah.
But like,
That's right.
My main ride, I still got my super bike.
Good.
Yeah. That's a leg up that this generation has over us 20, 30 years ago is they've got YouTube University. And there's so much content out there, like step by step, exactly how to replace the controller on this or run this wiring. And here's the diagram and how that works. They're not having to order manuals and dig through stuff. So it's like ripe for the picking. It's a great time for them. So speaking of the next generation, if a kid walked up to you and said, I want to design motorcycles when I grow up, what would be the real deal advice, not the sugar coated stuff, but the real deal advice that you would give them outside of going to the art center at Pasadena?
Ooh, if they don't want to go to art center, I don't know what to tell them. I'll be honest, just because like,
all right,
well,
rock on.
Because like the alumni network, it matters. It's like my mentor, he was a teacher at art center, and like he got me my first job because he knew people at Suzuki. He said, hey, I know this kid that's really passionate about bikes. So you really need to take a good look at him. So they did, and then they liked my stuff, and so then they hired me. It wasn't given to me, but at the very least, they put my portfolio at the top of the stack. You know what I mean?
Right.
Huge. Yeah.
So it really helps to have that, and then just sort of I hate to say it, but like, a lot of transportation design is illustration almost, where it's like they need a certain level of sketching ability. And if you draw vehicles at a certain level, like you don't have to be like the Van Gogh of motorcycle sketches.
Right.
Like
Chip Clues. Yeah.
you got to be at least decent, and
Right.
even
Of course.
like like other, transportation design departments at other schools, like I'll see their work and be like, I can't use them. You know what I mean? Like
Man.
they're not at that minimum level. As long as you're at this minimum level, anything above is extra. But like,
Yeah.
dude, your sketches have to hit. Otherwise, we can't use you. We just can't.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So
For a younger kid, what are some ways that they can develop that? Maybe they're not at the college age yet. What advice would you give them?
it's like just try to draw everything. I mean, if you can draw animals, if you can draw people, if you can draw, houses, drawing a motorcycle or a car is a very, very difficult thing, and it takes years of practice to really become good at it. And I think as long as they're just continually drawing, I didn't grow up drawing motorcycles every single day. Like I tried to, and they sucked, but that's okay. Like, embrace the suck, because like you're gonna suck when you're out, when you first try it, but you can't let that. I think the thing for all of us in this industry is that like, if we gave up because we sucked, we would never be in this industry, because like,
Yeah.
gotta grind through some, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't be a person who gives up easily. Like my
That's
path
right.
was not easy. It was not easy. So
Yeah.
just if you're really passionate about it, you're gonna find a way, right? But
Yeah.
If the teacher says give me 20 sketches, do 25, right? Like
Yeah.
if the teacher asks, it's like if you're like late to class, you better make sure you're on time after that. Like this industry, like, I mean, things like professionalism, it counts, man. Like especially with the Japanese companies, like I was always 5 minutes early to meetings, because you do not want to be late for stuff like that. Like those things matter. So if you're not good at that stuff, like you should fix that,
Get it together.
Yeah.
That's important in life, not just in the design world. I mean, to be prompt, to be on time, to be prepared. Those are the things that you're either going to be at this level or you're going to have a chance for this level. So, those are the differences, that those small things, that simple small things that you do in your everyday life that will propel you to where you want to go, or you stand still and sit on your feet and watch everybody else pass you by.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, let me add one more thing. Professionalism is key.
Yeah.
You need to have some sense of like mechanical things, right? If you're in a family and they're not motorcycle people, that's okay. But Legos, right? Like dig in deep with Legos, right? Because it kind of gives you an idea of like how things are put together. RC cars, that was actually my education. Like when Suzuki asked me to design, like, I don't know, like a side-by-side or an ATV, I was great at it, because if you take the bodywork off, it looks like an RC car. You know what I mean? Like literally an ATV looks like a giant misshaped like RC car.
Yeah. That is.
This
Yeah.
suspension and everything, right? But you understand how suspension works when you're playing around with like an RC car. You understand like steering systems. You understand transmissions, right? RC car is actually a great start, because it's more important for a motorcycle designer to understand those mechanical bits than an automotive guy. Because an automotive guy, they're kind of they either design the exterior or the interior, but like they're not designing the inside of the engine bay. You know what I mean? Whereas like we kind of are, right? So like motorcycle design, we actually have that extra burden where it's like we also have to have some idea of how these mechanical things happen, right? Like
where everything fits, where everything goes aesthetically and mechanically. Yep.
Like one tip that I would give to, if there are any students in college right now looking to maybe get their foot in the door in motorcycle design, when you're looking at your portfolio, you guys know what a hubless wheel is? It's like It's like it'll be like a wheel where there's nothing on the inside. You know what I mean? You could, stick your fist through it and stuff like that.
Yep.
There's really no reason for it except for just looks. And like,
Yeah.
well, by like most studios, if we see a hubless wheel in your portfolio, like we almost always close the cover because like
Really?
That's a pro
Really?
tip.
Okay.
it's heavier.
Pro tip.
It's heavier. It costs more. It performs worse. Like,
Mm.
it's like usually like when you're trying to design something, you can either make something cost more, but it looks better and it performs better. Like there's the triangle, right? This
Right.
makes it worse in all areas. So it's
That's so funny.
if we see like a hubless wheel, if you have projects with hubless wheels, get that shit out. It's like
All
it
right,
just-
Kel.
yeah, it does not help at all. Like they will.
Great.
It's not good. So there's
All
like
right,
a lot
kids,
of
listen up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they're working hard, it's like if they're working really hard and like if you apply once, if you don't get in, keep working on your stuff, apply again, but you need to show improvement, right? And like that's the thing about this industry is that like a lot of times you don't get your opportunity on that first try most of the time. You know what I mean? But like just keep grinding, keep improving and stuff. Eventually you'll get there, but just keep in mind that it's not going to be easy, and be okay with that.
Yeah. Greg, you brought up a great point too. Your teacher asked you to do 20 drawings, do 25. That kind of brings up a deeper concept, realizing that at least the decent teachers are giving you a path towards success. And so switching that perspective as a kid where the teacher's not just saying, here's your stuff to do, get this done. They're there to benefit you directly. So if you can switch that perspective of instead of like, oh gosh, I got 20 drawings I got to do for my homework, switching that perspective and understanding that this is actually bettering me and bettering my future is a game changer that I wish most kids understood. But I've done a dorky question for you. That drawing behind you, did you do those wheels by hand or did you trace something to get the circles?
It was by hand, but I mean, it was just like
that's insane. That would take me 475 tries just to get.
Yeah, but ask him how many motorcycles and wheels he's drawn in his lifetime.
Right. That's just crazy to see that.
I would say, like, here's one thing that'll blow a lot of people's minds. Like when they're drawing, right? This is something like a little nugget that we learned in school. When you're drawing something small, draw it with your fingers. When you're drawing something a little bit bigger, you draw it with your wrist. And then when you're drawing something like really big, use your shoulder, right? And
have you seen the guys do the perfect circles on the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Where they
it's
their
just
whole arm.
When you're trying to make the muscles of your shoulder, elbow, and your wrist and fingers all work together, it's really hard. So it's like if you can actually just sort of like isolate which muscle group you're using to draw and stuff, it actually becomes a lot. And draw big, get like big newsprint, and then like start drawing big so that you can use your shoulder, because it's a whole lot easier to, you have a ball and joint shoulder. It's actually easier to draw a wheel with your shoulder than it is with your fingers.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So there's mechanics, they don't think of it this way, but like drawing it's not a sport, but it kind of reminds me of it because like it's muscle memory and there's mechanics, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have a golf, it's like having a golf swing, you got to work on it, right? And you have to have like, there's mechanics behind it. It's the same thing.
That's right.
That's a great point.
Hey, before we get into the speed round, last question. Where can people find you on social media to follow your journey and the things that you're doing? Where were you most active on?
Man, this is where I sound like an old man. I'm not super active on socials, but they can find me on Instagram, if they just look for Greg Tada. I've got work up on Coraflot. I have work up on Behance. I don't post that much because so much of like professional designers, like I just have to keep, there's a lot of proprietary stuff it's gonna show. And then I just don't have time to work on my own projects that much. So, but I'm going to try to be better about it. But yeah, if they want to connect to me and stuff, they can find me on Instagram, Coraflot, Behance, LinkedIn, all those places.
Sounds good. And do you have anything else you want to share? Any things that you're working on? Any projects? I mean, the floor is yours before we get into the speed round.
No, I mean, you this was not on purpose. It just happened. Like I actually thought it'd be blurred because it's usually blurred in my other video software. But yeah, it's like I'm working on, I've got a couple like personal bikes and stuff like that, bike projects and stuff. So just kind of keep your eye out for
Yeah.
it. So hopefully I'll have
Well,
it
what's
out
in your
today.
stable? What's in your motorcycle stable?
Right now I have a 2014 RSV4, all red, just because I love V4s, man. I just,
Yeah.
for me, I think it's the coolest sound. Like it sounds like a MotoGP bike. So I've got
Yeah,
a
it does.
RSV4. I actually have a loaner from the company right now. I have a Moto Guzzi V7, and like,
Sweet.
if
Is
I'm
that
just
is that a
cruising,
new model?
yeah, it's like the new special edition V7. So
What do you
it's
think?
I actually really like it, man. It's like it's not an RSV4, but when I'm just going around town, like I kind of like looking down and seeing like the engine like poking out like, next to my knees and stuff. And like I won't lie, man, I get a lot of compliments on that bike. People will just
That's
ask
cool.
me like a lot of non-bike people, they're just curious because I don't think they realize that the engine is different, but they're like, man, I've never seen a bike like that before. What is it? It's so cool.
Right.
So actually, I love that bike. It's actually really cool
Cool.
around town. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is cool. All
That's
right, you
it,
ready for
man.
the
I
speed
wish I
round?
had more.
No, all good, man. Yeah, that shit. Thanks for sharing all the stuff you did. This was freaking awesome, man. I mean, for us,
Yeah.
I know we geeked out on it big time. So
Yeah.
now we get to hear your quirky and funny side. So
Okay.
this will be good. So
All right, you ready to rock?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we got 15 questions with a goal of 2 minutes. What's the deal today?
I say we
get
get
a
a
signed sketch.
signed sketch to the show.
Yeah, there
If
you go.
you don't make the 2 minutes, you send us a picture signed to Surgeon Ben and the One Gang podcast. This is the future of motorcycles, and then so we can hang it in our wall here.
You got it. You got it.
All right,
That's
killer.
Quick disclaimer, the game might be rigged, but hey, we'll start with the first question. All right. So, first question, Sketchpad or CAD, what one thing would you take with you to a deserted island, assuming there's power?
I would take my I have a Cintiq laptop that I would take with me so that I could create wherever I go.
Okay.
Very cool. All right. Okay, you have to design a bike for Batman or Blade. Who gets the cooler machine?
Dude, I actually think Blade, man. I think that Batman's played out. I think Blade would be way cooler to do.
Right on. I agree. Worst design trend in motorcycle history. Go.
Hubless wheels. I don't know.
Going back to the good old hubless.
You can resurrect any discontinued motorcycle. What are you bringing back and why?
Dude, like I just love the NR 750, and I know it's probably not the best bike, but that was one of the first bikes that inspired me as a kid. Like, and every time I see one, my heart skips.
Nice.
That's cool. Right on. All right. More stressful, creative block or design review with execs?
I'm sorry, more.
More stressful, creative block or design review with executives?
100% design review with execs.
No hesitation. All right. If you could design a dream bike with no rules, no budget, and no client, just for the soul of it, what would it be and what would it say about you?
I think it's the one in back of him.
Yeah, it's probably the one in back of me. Like I would just try to do something where it's like it's different from what I draw every single day, because like designers, we're outliers. We think different, and
Yep.
we all want that opportunity to design something different. So it would have to be one of those.
All right, cool.
All right. Would you rather have your designs in museums or seen on the street every day?
Seen on the street every day, 100%.
Cool. Easy answer.
I want people
All
to
right, one
enjoy
person-
it. I want people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
because it's not like
Use it.
I'm
Yeah.
not interested in museum pieces.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Rock on. All right. One person, dead or alive, you'd love to have dinner with.
That one's a tricky one. You know, I would actually have to go back to the design director at Kawasaki when I was there, Mr. Fukumoto. Um, he's an interesting story. When he was young, he lost the use of his right arm, and he taught himself
Wow.
to draw with his left arm over the
Jeez.
summer. And he's a
Damn.
really amazing designer. And I don't know anyone with more grit than that man. So I will always have love for that guy.
Killer, man. Thanks for sharing that story with us.
Yeah, that sounds like a movie that needs to be made.
No shit.
Absolutely.
All right, what's the most overused shape or design trope in modern motorcycles?
I don't know about like for me it's not like a single thing, but I just think that I wish that we'd move away from benchmark engineering where it's just every new model's like incrementally better. I would love to see like some more revolution, not evolution, because it just kind of feels
Right.
like, you know, what's the
Yeah,
like every bike is just barely better than the rest, and it's just, you know, so that they can claim that they have the most this or the fastest that, and like,
Yeah.
yeah.
does it actually make
That-
it a
that's
better
a great-
bike for people?
Right.
I hate
That's
benchmark.
a great answer, Greg. That's a great answer.
Yeah, that's a one-liner right there, man. More revolution, not evolution. That's killer.
Yeah.
All right, what band are you listening to when you have a design deadline and need motivation?
Alice in Chains. I love
Yes.
Alice in Chains.
All right,
Yeah.
unplugged.
Yeah, like I
All
love
right,
like
rock 'em.
Lane Staley, like that guy, like
The
that, or
man.
like Soundgarden, because I'm told like
Yes.
look at me, like I'm total like grunge head.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
We just
Very
become
cool.
best friends. That's sick.
Yeah,
All right,
did we
favorite
just become
motorcycle.
best friends?
Favorite motorcycle of all time.
Honestly, it was the NR750. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, it changed. That honestly changed my life. That's what I think. That's where I liked bikes before, but that's the one where I'm like, I want to design bikes because of the NR750.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that real inspiration. That's really cool. All right, finish this sentence. When I'm on my motorcycle, I'm
Do you guys sing to yourself? I don't know. Like, I don't do karaoke or like, you know, I'm not a singer. I don't know why. Like, when I'm on my motorcycle, like in my helmet, it's just a man and his thoughts. And
Yeah.
like, if the song's stuck in my head, I'm like humming it or kind of singing it to myself.
All right.
I don't know.
Cool.
audibly.
Notice I'm doing it until I'm like, you know, it's like, why am I singing that jingle from that commercial?
That's
Funny.
hilarious.
All right. Cool.
Yeah,
That's funny, man. So a happy Greg is a singing Greg.
yeah.
All right, the hardest design part of a motorcycle that still gives you a small challenge.
Ooh. I think the hardest thing for me is coming up with I think the tank is actually one of the hardest things because there's so many things that happen right there. It's just,
Mhm.
you know, it's like your legs touch it, your belly touches it on a sport bike. You know, you still want
Yeah.
something new. Like, do your arms clear it like when you're in a full race tuck? You know, like the chin of your helmet, you know, it's like you need to have like that little divot in there and stuff. There's a lot of little things with it. So to come up with a brand new tank, you know, like a lot of the projects we kept reusing tanks, but to come up with a brand new tank that's new and fresh and stuff like that is actually kind of hard.
Cool.
Makes sense. Yeah. All right, if motorcycles didn't exist, what would you be designing today?
Video games.
No.
Hopefully
Video
not that.
games about motorcycles.
That's hilarious. All right, last question. Sport bike, cruiser, cafe, dirt bike, enduro, or EV. If given the chance to do only one design, which model are you picking?
I'm living my dream, brother. Like, I'm just designing fast Italian bikes. I love sport bikes, brother. That's me.
Sport bikes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Very
man.
cool.
Awesome. Well,
made it.
listen, 2 minutes and 1 second. So you didn't officially clear the 2-minute mark. So that means we get
I would send it anyway. I would send it anyway.
We
Yeah,
get a signed picture for the office. So that's a good thing for us.
you got it.
But hey,
Yeah.
brother, in all sincerity, man, thank you so much for taking the time to come on this. This has been great for us because not only is it a little bit different than the normality of the guests that we usually bring on, but in addition to, it comes from experience with working with some of the biggest companies in the world in our industry. And your skill set is off the charts, man. We're just huge fans of yours and truly, really wish you nothing but success. Hopefully that project in back of you gets produced soon. And you let us test drive it when we come visit you in Cali. So
absolutely, yeah, let's do it, man. So no, I appreciate your guys' time, man. Thank you for reaching out. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us, Greg. And anybody who hasn't, any of you listeners or watchers, go check out Greg's stuff, because you can scroll and it is just freaking
it's
awesome.
badass.
I'm begging you guys. That aircraft inspired one you did, where it's like kind of got the warthog vibes with the mouth, looks like a shark almost. That thing is so gnarly.
No, it's insane. It's insane.
It's
when I was looking at his profile and I saw that, I'm like, we got to get this guy on the show for sure. So thanks, Greg.
Awesome. Thank you.
Stay healthy, brother. Stay healthy and keep the knees in the breeze.
Thank you. You guys too. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
All right.